Yo, this is Max Shonen playing a little bit of Pokemon Auto Chess on the screen. I'm actually commentating after the fact, going to be over-explaining, going through my decision-making on the game, why I'm doing stuff, all that good stuff. But as tradition, we do not pick our first region. It is actually coded into the game that not picking your first region gives you better luck. But in all seriousness, we're just letting the game kind of decide for us a little bit. But nothing too spectacular we're seeing as our region. But we do pick up everything on our bench, just maximizing our diversification and maximizing the potential synergies we could go, the potential 2-star Pokemon we could hit as we get right into the game. But pick up a Mystic Water. Always like to keep that in mind. Hit actually on a couple of fairy types. Gonna immediately put that in. What we're looking for early on is I always like to econ on stage 3 with the sparrows, and what I mean by that is I always like to get to that 10 mark to get that 1 point of interest on stage 3, which means we need to have a maximum of 6 gold worth of Pokemon on our board, and we can't have over 6 gold worth of Pokemon, I should say. So we are going to ultimately sell off here. We do pick the Nevermelt Ice just to kind of solidify a tank, I should say. But we pick up on a second Pichu. We have 6 gold worth of Pokemon on the board. We are at that 10 interest level, so we were 10 gold level, so we will get that 1 point of interest going in. I like that just because it does maximize that gold efficiency, and as you see here, I think it helps out on stage 4 item carousels like this that do cost 10. We did ultimately want that light ball, but we would do settle for the ghost, the Rotom Phone, which does add 1 ghost synergy. But I always like to sell, especially when we do hit on this Pikachu, and get to that 10 gold here as well, and just go for a loss streak. The reason being is because the difference between 9 and 10 gold is the greatest it will ever be for you for interest. The difference between 9 and 10 gold and getting 5 gold at the end or 6 gold is bigger than the difference between going from 19 gold and 20 gold and getting 2 interest. And that's bigger than going from 29 to 30, and that's bigger than 39 to 40. It's diminishing returns on the level of interest, and so I always like to get to 10 gold and always be at 10 gold on stage 4, always be it on level 3, just because I feel like that puts you in just so much a better spot long term. But we do pick up the pile of sand, and we immediately start gearing ourselves towards that Rotom Phone, towards that item. It is a pretty strong item, especially if we know it early and we can gear ourselves towards a ghost synergy. We might as well keep that option open. But we do actually mix in and place a couple items on the Pikachu. I'm fine doing this, especially with that pile of sand and getting that ghost synergy rolling. I am fine with doing that, and I do like putting my items on an early level 2 unit, especially a level 2 unit that you're fairly certain you're going to sell. I do miss out on placing the Rotom Phone in and missing out on getting that ghost, which is fine. We do hit a baby, we do get a free win on our end. But I like doing that just because you know you're ultimately going to sell that level 2 1-star or level 2 1 gold cost unit. We're going to ultimately sell that Pikachu, but we want to use our items while we have. We don't want them just sitting on our bench. And so to put them to good use, put it on a mon you're going to sell. You can still ultimately sell that mon and then put your items on your unique, on your ultra, or on your best Pokemon out there, because that's ultimately almost always what you want to do. You almost always in Pokemon Auto Chess want your best items on your best Pokemon. That's ultimately what you do. That's almost always the case. You don't want to spread the love. You want to make the ultimate Pokemon out there. Or if you want a 1 ultimate tank and 1 ultimate DPS, that's a lot of times how it works But you want, since the items and the Pokemon, since the benefits are kind of multiplicative, you do want to have as many multipliers on the same thing as possible. That's almost always better than spreading the love. Not to say there aren't situations where you do want to spread the love, where you do want to, add in a ice synergy, which adds special defense to your entire team. Not that you don't want to do that, but typically how you play is you want to make just the ultimate unstoppable machine. But off on a tangent, we are kind of playing the game. Most kind of keeping Electric open as well as Ghost, since we did hit on that Pikachu. We're picking up the Magmites, picking up the Ghost Mons we see. We do have a decision to be made on what Pokemon we want to get. We're kind of deciding. Ultimately go with the Paris just for the item synergy more so than the actual Pokemon itself. We do check out where that light square is. A decent light square. We do not end up going light, however. But we kind of check out other people's board. Another person having Ghost. Another kind of nice thing in this game is it's not entirely bad to be competing with one other person. Just because you can see this other person is benefiting from us going Ghost as well, because they have the pile of sand. We have the pile of sand and they have the pile of sand. Because we picked it up because we're Ghost, they're going to have more opportunities for rares if they pick up a rare. And that does happen in this game. We kind of help each other out by picking up rares, so we pick up more Pokemon for us to go Ghost, because you do really want to get to 8 Ghost. That's kind of the whole point of Ghost. You don't want to stop at 6. Adding 4 Ghost can be extremely beneficial if it's added in naturally, but going 8 Ghost is kind of the whole point. We pick up a nice Flaffy, have no worries about this Gyarados with the reviving Pikachu. Revives are typically good on the wild, as well as Ghost is, since Ghost is going to affect their entire team. Since their entire team is one Pokemon, it does weaken that. So Ghost is always good for the wild. Have no worries, kind of checking out everybody else's team here. But we are definitely more leaning towards Ghost at this point, especially with that item. Ghost, you definitely want to start early. If you don't get a Ghost Unique and a Ghost Ultra, having to get to level 9 to go Ghost 8 is really painful. So if you're going to go Ghost, we want to go Ghost early. We ultimately pick up the Ghost. We have a nice side of Fairy as well. If we do ultimately want to pick that, there is uniques in there. It was Ghost and Fairy. But we kind of are deciding what we ultimately want to get. We have Mimikyu, which seems extremely good, although I do check out Screamtail here. Screamtail is just so good, and even though it does and can hurt your own team, it is always fun to play with. But we do ultimately decide just sticking with a Ghost synergy. Picking up Mimikyu is the way to go. Now, we don't actually place the items on it. We do keep them on Pikachu. We do want Mimikyu to be our tank for sure. But the rest of our team is struggling a little bit. And we ultimately want to keep Pikachu in there just for the damage. We have a decent amount of health at this point at 87. Not too worried about that. I view health as a little more flexibility if we ultimately want to econ a little bit and not go for rolls and things like that. We can use a little bit of health for that. That's how I picture that. But we do hit on a Shuppet and a Magneton. Immediately put the Magneton in Now, we do ultimately have a decision here what to do with our items. We have multiple black glasses, which is always good. We are going to be wanting to make a crit machine. Black glasses typically go extremely good together. Multiple black glasses, because that way we can get the Reaper Cloth, we can get the crit item that gives you PP. I forget what its name is, I don't see it here, but we get that item. If you put them together, naturally those increase your crit amount to have multiple of those items, and they always synergize well. Extremely easy synergizing items. However, we actually immediately go up against a Rocky Helmet, which is never good to see when you make a crit build, or however you want to call it. And that Rocky Helmet does kind of deny us from winning this round. But we do have a solid team. We barely lose. We don't lose a ton of health. Nice thing about that is we do get a little bit of extra priority on this round, and we are able to snag the black glasses. So we can make one Mon with 3 different black glasses items. Kind of max out that synergy, and you will see here we do get my favorite. Oh, excuse me, I'm a little bit ahead of myself, but we will ultimately decide what we want to synergize those black glasses with. We do have enough health here that we do actually, in fact, econ a little bit more. We're at 59 gold, and we could go up to level 6, get another Pokemon in there, and we could. It would be a pretty drastic improvement for us, because that would get Electric 3. And so that would be a pretty decent improvement for our team. But we do decide against it. We do again go up against another Rocky Helmet. Never good to see. But a lot of the things in this game, we still end up winning, because our team is fairly solid. It's nice that we are pretty solid. Magneton is a good enough DPS in the back that we can have our items on Pikachu, on Magneton, and not be too worried. Ultimately get to level 6, put in that Electric 3, which is a great synergy for us. Just continuing to stack synergies, stack DPS, all while keeping in mind that Ghost. We do want to go Ghost 8 at some point. Kind of nice that we do pick up Amorphous 2. We do have Ghastly in mind, We do have Ghastly in mind, so we will guarantee to pick up naturally pick up Amorphous 3, and Amorphous is always good to have on and just add on to an endgame team, since it does affect the entire team. Amorphous is always good to add. Ice is always good to add. And attack on at the end, with the main synergy being Ghost. It's also extremely nice to have that Ghost item. That gives us a pretty large amount of flexibility, which typically you don't have with Ghost, because again, you want to get to Ghost 8. And so typically you don't have a lot of flexibility unless you ultimately get to level 9. But we'll actually have a little bit of flexibility at level 8 with that item. But we end up facing Mewtwo. Never too worried about these wild Mons with Ghost synergy, since it does, again, affect them pretty drastically. We pick up another Mystic Water. And then we do pick up actually a Magnet here as well. So we will complete my favorite synergy of the black glasses with that Razor Fang, with that item that steals PP. Again, I forget it, I apologize. And the Reaper Cloth. But that's my favorite synergy, just because having those 3 just naturally give you enough. Oh, and I see I did mess up. I shouldn't have bought the pile of sand, and I was gonna spend it to get to level 7 and econ at the same time and be over 50, but I ultimately was not able to. But my favorite Black Glasses trio just naturally gives you enough crit by having those items on it, and then those crits do the most for you through those items, rather than having the Razor Claw that this other guy has and having those 3 items together. You can see this is a good lobby. I mean, this is top 100. I would never say I'm the best. I do have some good luck in this game. Kind of nice synergies too. I kind of get enabled. But sometimes you just got to ride the river. Sometimes you just got to ride what the game gives you, and if the game gives you a lot of good stuff, like I feel like I'm getting blessed here, then you got to do it. But anywho, we continue on our merry way. We're holding a Ditto in the back, just in case. We could obviously put it on the pile of sand and improve that. We are afraid of Vulpix, just because Vulpix is so good. A lot of the best strategies right now are just broken mons, Vulpix being one of them. Vulpix just doing AoE damage. Just a lot of the AoE mons are a little overtuned, in my opinion. Like Vulpix, like Sunflora, things along those lines. But I do ultimately decide to go with a Fairy Stone. 10 gold for guaranteeing improvement on our team, just stacking as much improvement as possible, stacking as much DPS. See no reason not to. Doesn't drastically improve our situation. But we ultimately place this item on the Flaffy. Again, just placing our items on Pokemon we know we're going to sell. Even though we're not putting any of them on Mimikyu, which we probably should at this point. We probably should just sell that Pikachu and place those items on the Mimikyu. We're not losing as much as we would just having those items sit on the bench. But we go up against another Ghost team who's doing decent as well. Another Rocky Helmet. However, our team is good enough. We have enough level 2s. Utilizing all of our items. So not too worried. But we check out and see what the artificial item is. Always like doing that. Does nothing for us, but we pick up a Magneton. We pick up another Magneton. And we could already pick up a... Magnemite. Pick up 2 Magnemites, and we could get a Magneton. How many times can I say that word? But we decide against it just because we have those items on our Magneton already. We know we're going to sell that. We know we ultimately are going to put those on our Ultra almost all occasions in this scenario. And so we don't want to make a Magnezone. That will do us no good. Because we know we're going to sell that. Why would we keep that on the bench? Why would we lose out on that gold? We're not going to do it. It would all ultimately be bad chasing a Magnezone. We are better off. We are so much better off just planning on selling. Almost all the time. That's why I do. I mean, sometimes I do get a little frustrated how much more impactful just having a dominant Ultra and a dominant uncommon and having good items, because it is more in your control what Pokemon are on your board and whether you want to reroll. Like, if I really wanted a Magnezone there, I could have gotten it, and I could have made that decision, and I feel I have more control over the Pokemon on my field than I do sometimes on the items, on the Ultras, on the Uniques. And And the fact that the uniques and the ultras and the items impact your game in such a great amount, and those are the things with more RNG than deciding to get level 3 units. I wish it was a little more on the side of your units matter. But since the items are so impactful, and since like putting items on good your best Pokemon is almost always the best thing to do. It's a little RNG based. I wish it was the other way around. But we ultimately, I mean, we pick up Darkrai here, which is fantastic for us for our Morphus. That immediately gets at that for us without Ghastly on the board. I'm just rambling on at this point, but I appreciate if you are watching at this point here as well. Hits on the pile of sand, just ditto it out. But get a nice synergy. And it is always, I do always find it the best way to play this game typically is to have a good synergy that fuels the items on your Ultra. Like, that's typically the way to go. Like, for this case, for example, now Ghost doesn't necessarily fuel Darkrai, but what I mean by, hey, having synergies that fuel your items, that fuel your Mega is, or your Ultra, excuse me. You want your water synergy fueling your choice specs, fueling your Soul Dew on your Kyogre, on your water Ultra, or you want your dark synergy fueling your crit items on your crit Ultra, on your dark Ultra, and you just want to stack as much as possible on one thing and just make an unstoppable force most of the time. And there's not too many synergies that, oh, now you have 8 Mons that all do the same amount of damage to the other team. Like, you have 8 warrior units. I feel like that's kind of how Ground used to be, but Ground was way overtuned. And so it wasn't just, hey, 8 good units, it was 5 good units and 3 unstoppable units. But Ground is nerfed into the ground, pun intended. But we ultimately pick up the flower because we want to fuel that Darkrai as much as possible. Adding a little bit of speed onto him is going to be better for us than trying to putting a subpar item on Aegislash. No, Darkrai is already doing 90% of our damage. Have him do more damage. But we ultimately sell the Chandelure Pokemons. But again, given that flower, adding speed on Darkrai, since he's our mage damage dealer, gonna do us better than putting those items elsewhere. But we go up against another Primarina. Again, expressing a little bit of my frustration. This guy's team, he didn't draft any of his team. All his team is coming from babies and uncommons, or uniques, and ultras. Like, he didn't draft any of his team. He got them from all RNG-based events, which that just seems odd. It seems odd. But you kind of have to play into it, and there are obviously ways to play into it. You should be thinking about what ultras you could possibly get. If you're going ground, you want to prioritize embers and, hey, make a red orb early. And in case you're going ground, you could get Groudon, and you want to be able to evolve him. So you do have some control over that. You should be doing that. You should know hey, what ultras are good and what unique, more importantly, what uniques are good. Because if you are going a unique and it's only level 10, if you pick a unique and you end up getting one for your synergy that kind of sucks, you have to be able to be like, oh, my unique sucks, but let's just choose a different one and go a different route and go a different synergy. Like at level 10, you should be able to do that. And that's why I think rolling before level 10 is super hard in this game. And you need to be hitting on something good if you're rolling before level 10, because sometimes you ultimately want to change your synergy because you get a bad unique. And if you get a bad unique and you can't change your synergy because you rolled before Gyarados and you don't have enough gold and to have the flexibility to change, that's not working. But in the game here, we do pick up Reuniclus, which we would like Reuniclus more than a Rhyhorn, which is why we pick him up. We're going to add him in there. We're going to evolve him and place the Aqua Egg on him. Reason why I'm doing that is because hopefully we get Ghastly at some point. Once we get him, we will hit Amorphous 5, which is even better for us. But doing well, kind of leading the lobby here. I'm not talking too much about the game, in all fairness. But we could have picked up the Corsola here. We have enough health to get the Ghost Corsola, but we ultimately don't do it. But nice Ghost 8 synergy. Add in a little artificial. Pick up Coco. We actually end up taking out the artificial as well, just to keep in Dusclops. Go up against the other ghost, the Ghost of Improvise. Interesting that he's going Ghost. And we actually lose this one. But we do kind of feel like we are getting a little screwed on our side, so I'm pretty sure we end up switching again. And then we ultimately, there's not a whole lot we can do here as far as the items go. We let up another Rocky Helmet, but we do pick up the Ice Stone. We're going to kind of get a cheeky ice synergy with an Ice Stone, give our whole team special defense, which is definitely good with us. And we do ultimately pick up Ghastly as well, which we will sell off for. Get that Amorphous 5. Ghost 8 Amorphous 5 with Fairy and Ice. Those stones not only help us out with Amorphous, but they do having Ghost Synergy is obviously our main synergy that we're using, but having Ice Synergy is one of the better ones to have. We do ultimately beat the Sound team. Darkrai and Reuniclus doing most of the work. Mimikyu staying alive, doing what it needs. We come down to me and Gibble in the end. Pretty sure this guy has a fighting team. But good game. A nice Ghost 8 team. And Ghost was just recently buffed. As is making this video, there was an update. Kind of spooky season, I should say. But a nice Ghost improvement. They can find items now. So if you do want to go play, Pokemon Auto Chess is just a browser game. You could even possibly play it at work. Don't get fired. But ultimately pick up the shiny charm. We're going to put that on Ghostly. Ghostly. It should be Ghostly. Who might? I'm going to just make up names for all these. But we want to make sure that Ghastly gets his... Actually, we're going to evolve this into Haunter, ultimately. Kind of guaranteeing the win. But we do want to guarantee that Haunter gets his ability off at least once, reducing all the PP of the opponent. Pause. But we get the nice dub. Stage 29. Not too long of a game. Pretty competitive. You can see all the stats going up against. The Ninetales did ultimately get second place. Still extremely good. But you can see the end game and see the end up to 1324 in the top 100. But I appreciate all you guys watching. And I hope y'all have a good one. See you next time.